The Bears are back, baby. The 53-man roster is officially here as of 3 p.m. Central Time today. Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, and the rest of the coaching staff has their guys locked in, and we're here to break it down for all of you guys. My name is Nick Brody, the host of Just Another Year Chicago. Happy to bring you guys the information of those who made the roster, my comments on who I'm shocked made the roster, I'm shocked who get cut from the roster, and who I think will be coming back to the practice squad. So, before we kick things off today, because there are a lot of shocks on this roster I'm kind of shocked by. Before we begin today, we'd like to thank today's sponsor, BetStamp. BetStamp is a mobile and web-based platform in the sports betting space, built for people looking to take sports betting seriously. BetStamp solves the problems serious sports bettors face on a daily basis by providing them information and tools they need to succeed, such as tracking their record, seeing the best odds across sportsbook within their state or region, and interacting with other top bettors to see how they make their moves. Download today on the Google or App Store, or use your own web browser. Use referral code JSHI, that's JAYCHI, to get in on the action when you sign up. And make sure to follow me, Chicago Nick. 100% go and check out BetStamp. Use code JAYCHI, that's JSHI. I love BetStamp. I've won a ton of cash because I'm able to see the best odds possible from my local sports books here in Illinois. So very, very exciting app. Sign up for free, use the code, and follow me, Chicago Nick. So just let's get into it. Who are the Chicago Bears this upcoming season? And I'm going to start with the offense from the quarterback's room, and I'm going to end with the specialists. So the quarterback's room, only 2 guys. Bears had 3 guys almost all of camp. Bears ended up having only 2 guys. 2 quarterbacks in the room is obviously Justin Fields and Trevor Siemian. Running backs, there's only 3 of them in the room, and it's Trestan, Ebner, Khalil, Herbert, and David Montgomery. Fullbacks, the Bears kept both their fullbacks. I thought the Bears were only going to go with 1, but they kept Khari, Blasingame, and Jake Tonges. So obviously that's a big thing for Luke Getsy, and I'm very excited about that, but I'm shocked that they kept 2 because that is a position that you can obviously flux guys in and out at. But the receivers room, Bears kept 7 of them. One name really stood out to me, but N'Keal Harry, Velus Jones Jr., Darnell Mooney, Dante Pettis, Byron Pringle, Equanimeous St. Brown, and Tajae Sharpe. I am shocked, actually. No, I'm sorry. I'm shocked by 2 of those names making the roster because I thought Dante Pettis, I was like, okay, he's probably going to make it. He's kind of one of my guys that I think, and you can go watch our last video on my prediction. But Tajae Sharpe making the roster, clearly deserved, had a fantastic preseason, but 7 wide receivers. That's a lot of wide receivers for a team, especially a team with 2 fullbacks as well. Bears only went with 2 tight ends, though. Ryan Griffin, Cole Kmet are the 2 tight ends for the Chicago Bears. And then let's go to the important room, the room that a lot of people have been wondering about, is that the Bears kept 9 offensive linemen: Larry Borom, J. Trey Carter, Teven Jenkins, Braxton Jones, Sam Mustipher, Lucas Patrick, Riley Reiff, Zach Thomas, Cody Whitehair. What's a name that's kind of missing in there? Michael Schofield got waived. That was a big shocker for me. Doesn't mean he can't come to the practice squad. That's a big shocker to me, though, because a lot of teams are definitely going to want to go after him. He's a good veteran. But the Bears, could do something, bring him back, but that was a big shock to me. 8 defensive linemen for the Chicago Bears now going to the defensive side of the ball. Angelo Blackson, Travis Gibson, Justin Jones, Al-Quadin Muhammad. Mike Pennell Jr. made the roster. I was pretty pumped about that when I saw that one out there because I was like, I don't know, he's kind of a journeyman, but he made the roster. Robert Quinn, Dominique Robinson, Tyrese Tonga. 6 linebackers made this, and, a big fan favorite in there. Matthew Adams, Caleb Johnson, Nick Moreau, Jack Sanborn made the roster, Bears fans. Go out and get the jersey on DHgate, AliExpress, wherever you get your fake jerseys from. Or hell, go on the Bears website and buy a real one. Jack Sanborn is a Chicago Bear. Lake Zurich kid, always great to see. Congratulations, Jack. That's awesome. Roquan Smith and Joe Thomas are also on the roster. 6 cornerbacks for the Chicago Bears made it. Kyler Gordon, Lamar Jackson, the cornerback, made the Bears roster. A lot of people were shocked by that one. Jalen Johnson, Jalen Jones, Duke Shelley, and Kendall Vildor. I was kind of shocked by the cornerbacks room, but not by the safeties room. The safeties room is absolutely stacked. Jaywan Brisker, Dane Cruikshank, Elijah Hicks, DeAndre Houston Carson, Eddie Jackson, And then finally, the specialist, punter, Trenton Gill, kicker, Cairo Santos, long snapper, Patrick Scales. That is your 53-man roster for the Chicago Bears. Why was I shocked by a lot of those? Because listen to some of the names that didn't make the roster, and I will break it a little bit more in depth in a second. But the Bears have waived the following players: tight end Chase Allen, who I definitely think will come back to the practice squad; wide receiver Isaiah Coulter, who I definitely think will also come back to the practice squad; Michael Treadway, defensive lineman; offensive lineman Dieter Esselin; running back Darrington Evans. That was a shock to me because this guy was under contract as a free agent; wide receiver Chris Fink; veteran linebacker DeMarcus Gates. That was another shock for me. This one hurts. These next two actually hurt me a lot. Defensive back Thomas Graham Jr., which I think they're going to bring him back on the practice squad. It was because he got injured during camp, and that hurt him dearly. They're not sure when he's going to be ready to come back. So the Bears might have waived him, and then they're like, hey, we're going to bring you on as a practice squad player. Defensive lineman Sam Kamara. I really like Sam Kamara. He had a really strong preseason. I definitely see him coming back to the practice squad if no other team claims him. Offensive lineman Lactavius Simmons. Defensive lineman Charles Snowden. I definitely see him coming back as well. Defensive back AJ Thomas. Running back DeMonte Tuggle. Wide receiver Nasimba Webster. Then here are the following contracts that have been terminated by vested veterans: offensive lineman Sean Coleman, defensive lineman Trevin Coley, defensive lineman Mario Edwards Jr. This one shocked me because he was on a 3-year contract. So the Bears are going to have to chew up some cap here, and we know Ryan Poles hates that. But again, he's had a lot of off-field issues. He's caused a lot of, roughing the passer penalties and also unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So I kind of saw that one coming. I said that they were going to keep him because he can flex between an end and a defensive tackle. But the best of luck to Mario Edwards Jr. I think he'll get picked up pretty quickly. Defensive back Devontae Harris, unfortunately, another journeyman, also got terminated. Quarterback Nathan Peterman. Could I see Peterman coming to the practice squad? Maybe. The Bears are definitely going to have someone on the practice squad because with that offensive line, depending on how they do, 2 quarterbacks is a little risky in my opinion. And then offensive lineman Michael Schofield III. I was shocked by seeing that one. Defensive back Greg Stroman Jr. All their contracts were terminated by vested veterans. The Bears have terminated the following vested veteran contract with a non-football designation: tight end James O'Shaughnessy, local Chicago kid. I was really shocked by this one. I thought the Bears were going to go with 3 tight ends and only 1 fullback, but I don't know. I mean, he didn't do that much. I like him. I think he's a good community guy, Chicago kid, could have played for the Chicago Bears. Fortunately, it didn't turn out well. And then the Bears placed the following player on reserve, injured reserve, and that's defensive back Teven Young. Wow. 53-man roster, a lot of guys waived. Bears get to keep 16 or put 16 players on their practice squad. So, just kind of looking at this, I already said defensive, tight end Chase Allen, wide receiver Isaiah Coulter, linebacker LaMarcus Gates, defensive back Thomas Graham Jr., Sam Kamara, Lactavius Simmons. It's already 6 guys. I mean, you could realistically almost keep all these guys, which is kind of crazy. I could see Michael Schofield getting picked up pretty quickly, maybe even Nathan Peterman, but wow. The Bears, they're better than last year. I have to say it, like they are better. And people are going, whoa, Nick, Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, they're gone. Okay. When were they on the field? When were they on the field to impact games? And when they were, they did, but they weren't on the field. My neighbor Jay, shout out to you, Jay. I know, you say it best. If you're going to be paid, be on the field. These guys weren't on the field. Unfortunately, they did not help the Bears get better. But the Bears, I kind of was shocked that they didn't put N'Keal Harry on some sort of, shortened IR list like they did with Danny Trevathan. But man, I don't know. Some of the cuts, man, I'm really upset. I'm really, really upset. I'm really upset about Thomas Graham Jr. and Sam Kamara. But overall, I think that this is a stacked roster. I mean, Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, and Eddie Jackson as your DBs. That's a better group than last year. Your linebackers, Roquan Smith, Matthew Adams, probably, and Nicholas Monroe. That's a very strong group that's going to be healthy and on the field. Your defensive line is mean. I mean, I know you don't have a big guy like Akeem Hicks, But Justin Jones has had a fantastic camp in preseason. You know, Travis Gibson, Robert Quinn, you know, it's dangerous up front. Your offensive line also, I kind of want to go to that real quick, is that with Michael Schofield being released, that just opens it up for Teven Jenkins to be right guard one. And I think he greatly deserves it. I mean, dealing with all the Bears fans, including myself, what an offseason. Just what an offseason. These guys play football in less than 2 weeks. I mean, like, isn't that wild? I mean, like, this is the Bears, baby. Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus, I think, did a great job. They clearly can evaluate talent well. I'm telling you, the Bears are going to be better this year. I'm going to give my full prediction. I'm going to do my full depth chart breakdown over the next couple of days. But that is the 53-man roster for you guys. I know, comment below who you think is shocked that got released, or, you know, shocked who made the roster. But stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. I have a very special guest because someone's mom from the roster is going to be on the show. He's on the offensive line. A lot of you guys might know her. That's all I'm going to say. Offensive line mom on Twitter, very active with the community. I'm sure you guys will figure out who it is. But she will be on tomorrow. She's going to bring up some stuff about Larry, and I'm super excited. Oh, well, I just gave it away. Larry Borom's mom is coming on tomorrow. Super excited about that. Joelle is coming on. She's going to talk about Larry growing up and, you know, what it's like to be an NFL mom and how much he loves the Chicago Bears fan base. So with that, thank you very much for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Rohde. Welcome to Chicago Bears football. The roster is set. We are ready to go. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow us on social, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.